So I hear a lot of people saying that speech therapists play a lot of games during the therapy sessions, and we make it look very easy and very fun. And I hear this from parents who are confused as to why we're playing games instead of doing therapy. I hear from teachers who say, is there a learning being done here? Because what are you doing? And I hear from students who don't have speech therapy who know how much fun it is and want to join. Today, I'm going to tell you 3 ways that games are very beneficial so that the students can meet their therapy goals and make progress. And it's good. I think games are a good thing, so I'm going to break it down for you today. The first reason is engagement and motivation. I mean, listen, if the sessions are fun and engaging and interactive, then you can make even the most resistant child open up. We have to remember that a lot of the kids who are being referred to speech therapy are behind academically. They're not accessing the curriculum as easily as the other students are, and they're having a hard time. So that as a baseline, we have to make sure that we are creating a safe and productive learning environment so that they feel comfortable to take risks and make mistakes and learn. I remember this one third grader comes to mind, and let's just call him Caleb for this, just the sake of the story. But Caleb was labeled as the problem child, where he was screaming, yelling, throwing chairs and furniture across the room, and teachers have done everything in their power to help him, whether that's phone call home, positive and negative reinforcement, anything under the sun that you can imagine. They tried it all. Given their resources and time, there was not much that they could do beyond what they have already done. And when I saw him in therapy too, I already noticed that he was on the defense. I mean, he was hurling insults at me. He put his head down on the table. He didn't want to do anything. He refused to even leave the classroom. Very difficult to get him on board and help just get him to trust me and know that I am here to help him. So everything was a huge challenge because, again, he was very resistant. So I decided to change my approach. So now I heard that he really loved crossword puzzles. So one day I printed out a crossword puzzle, and he was just doing his usual Caleb self, putting his head down on the table, not really wanting to participate. And I took the worksheet and I just pushed it towards him. And he kind of looked at me like, what? We're allowed to do this in school? But I just silently nodded, and he just silently began to fill out the puzzle. And I basically let him complete it on his own, and I had to get comfortable with silence, which is, I know, speech therapists, we love to talk, but yes, I had to be silent. And I knew that I had to get comfortable with it because it's in that silence, knowing that he doesn't have to say anything, I don't have to say anything. I'm not putting any pressure on him to speak. I'm not giving corrective feedback. And it was in this that we were slowly building trust. And it was after a couple sessions that he slowly began to warm up to me. And he began to associate speech therapy with this not so horrible thing. And if anything, it was a place that he enjoyed coming to. And it was only when I got these positive signals and signs from him that I slowly began to give him feedback and try to make it educationally appropriate. And by the end of the school year, there were days when I passed him in the hallways and he would just come running up to me and say, can I come to speech therapy? And he'd be begging me. And I would just laugh and say, no, today's not your day, silly. To which he would respond, okay, so then I'll see you on Thursday at 1 p.m. And for him to just remember his time and day for when he comes to speech therapy, I mean, that in itself was a huge achievement because, we have to remember where he came from, right? So I don't know, it was just really unexpected. And I think for me, that was hugely rewarding, and I will never forget it. Oftentimes, I find that these kids come to us in such a broken state where they feel defeated and exhausted. I mean, imagine day in out feeling so less than is the word I can think of right now, compared to the other kids who seem to have it all figured out and can do the things that you're having trouble with so easily. And when this is happening on a daily basis, it's gonna catch up to them eventually. So by the time the kids get approved for services, they are defeated and they've just given up. And in Caleb's case, super resistant and on guard. And it's almost like, oh, great, here's another teacher who can judge us for the things that I can't do right in my life. So more often than not, it's really messy and it's a windy road. And I think that's what makes us different than teachers, because teachers, they have this curriculum that they need to teach, and it's getting the kids to where they need to be to get to the next grade. But different from teachers, therapists, we establish a baseline and we meet the kids where they are at. So I understand that Caleb had to be a certain level, but Caleb can't do these things, so he's at this level. Therefore, and unlike the teachers, I'm gonna meet him here and slowly expand on his progress and slowly close that gap. And to close this gap, games are a really, really good tool to get them there, because through games, you're creating a positive learning environment that the kids are receptive to, is what I found. Number 2 is growth and reinforcement. So we use games to reinforce and practice the skills that they're working on, especially for articulation therapy, where you're repeating the error sound over and over and over and over again. I mean, it can get very boring and dull and rote. TBH. Since the students are tasked to practice it over and over again, you can use games to kind of mitigate that. And now there's 2 ways that you can do this. So the first way is that you can rotate between work and game. So let's say they have a worksheet that they're filling out. This is a reading task I have here. So let's say the kid is really struggling with reading and we need to get through this sheet. But they don't really want to do it. So depending on the child and their motivation level, you can have them take a turn in a game like Connect 4 after every single row that they read. So we can do row, turn, row, turn, row, turn, or you can do section by section. And this is really effective because they're still getting their work done, but they're engaging in a game that they love. And honestly, this is why you see so many speech therapists pull out any random board game from the shelf, is because you can use any game to target skills. And we make all and any games appropriate for therapy, and it really is that flexible. The second way that we can use games as an opportunity for growth and reinforcement is not by thinking about what the activity or how you're going to target the speech language goal, but rather why. Why are we working on this goal? What is the purpose? So, for example, let's say we have a child who is really struggling with the skill of prediction. So now it's not about what we're going to do or what kind of activity to target this, but why. Like, what is the main purpose of the speech therapy session? It's so that they can get better at prediction, right? So it doesn't necessarily have to look like a standard worksheet to reinforce that skill, but you can use games to do that. The goal of the game Connect 4 is that they get 4 in a row, right? But instead of doing a standard worksheet, they still can learn the skill of prediction through this game, where they have to be cognizant of what the opponent might be thinking or where the opponent might put his chip next. So they might see something here and see, oh, there's going to be a 4th one here, or to see a potential 4 in a row right here. So again, it's not about how you do the activity or what the activity is, but rather why you are using a certain activity and what the main goal of the session is. And number 3 is communication and interaction. It's through these games that they're not only learning the rules of the game, but on how to interact appropriately as well. I mean, would you cut someone off in the middle of their sentence, or would you lie and cheat your way through life? I don't know, maybe you do, but more often than not, it's through these games that they're learning appropriate social interactions and the rules of life. So about turn taking, about sharing, following predetermined rules. Hopefully the kids will learn not to throw a fit and cry hysterically if they lose the game, or not to sneer or cheer when someone loses the game. So on and so forth. I think you get my point. I think all of this sounds like common sense, but trust me, I've had a lot of kids who really struggle with appropriate gameplay and using appropriate social interaction. Even doing therapy in COVID days, I've had kids get so frustrated that they lost the game that they would just piece out of a Zoom call and hang up on me. I've had kids in person who would cry hysterically if they lost, or they would be really rude and mean to the winner because they lost the game and they're upset about it, so they have to make it known that they're upset about it. Yeah, but in all seriousness, these social skills can be generalized and transferred over into any context. And we can even go so far as to say, maybe there's a friend who's never played the game before. How are they going to go about explaining the rules of the game in a clear and succinct way so that they will understand? What if there's someone who's not following the rules? How do you engage? How do you diffuse the situation or come up with creative solutions to make the situation better? I won't go into great lengths about it, but I have seen some very interesting events unfold. It's not because of a worksheet that these situations happened, but rather through games that I got to see it all unfold. So games are great. And last but not least, number 3, games can be used for assessment and progress monitoring. So at the end of the day, games can be used as a tool for speech therapists to observe students in a non-confrontational, relaxing, fun way, to observe them on how well they are applying the skills and strategies that we've been working on in therapy in a functional manner. And it's in this time that we can determine, have they mastered all these skills that we've been working on, or is there some work that needs to be done? So again, games are used for assessment to determine, are they using the skills, and progress monitoring, what work still remains. And in all of this, the kids are engaged in a multimodal learning experience where they don't even realize they're experiencing it. And because they're engaging multiple senses throughout this experience, it really contributes to the learning opportunity and retention. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying this all to say we just throw and pick a random game at the table and just call it a day, because we are still providing individualized speech therapy services that are appropriate for that individual student's needs. We're just using a game and customizing the game tailored to each student. It's just a matter of being creative and thinking arbitrarily. So all in all, games are a tool. It's a tool that helps the students to get from point A to point B. And that's the key takeaway here. Doesn't matter how they progress on their speech and language goals. I wouldn't really say so how. It's a matter of have they, can they? And if the goal is that the students are engaged and communicating in an age-appropriate way, all the while meeting their educational goals and then being successful in the classroom, I mean, does it really matter that games played a part in it? I wouldn't really say that. So if anything, if they can meet their goals, why not just have fun along the way and use games more often? Because then the kids will be engaged, the therapist is having fun, they're still meeting their goals. I mean, these are all of the prime hallmarks of whether or not a child is making progress and eventually graduate from speech therapy. And from my experience, these kids have had so much fun playing the game that they want to go home and want to play the games as well and get their parents to play with them. And we all know the importance of getting the parents' involvement. I think I would cry of happiness being that the kids are now removing themselves from the four walls of my therapy room and now generalizing the skills that we've been working on in their life functionally. I mean, that would be it for me. So overall, the students who are actively participating, engaged, and motivated during the therapy sessions are the ones who make the most progress. And the students who make the most progress eventually get decertified and graduate from speech therapy. Frankly, I don't care how we get there, as long as the kid is happy, they're having fun, they're learning and growing, then heck, I'm happy and I've done my job. So whatever your opinion was on why speech therapists play so many games in therapy, I hope that these reasonings and this video helped you to understand why we do what we do and how games can be used as a really good thing to help kids to get them where they need to be. If you agreed with this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you disagree, that's okay. You can give it a thumbs down too. And yeah, next month I'm going to be releasing a video on some games that I've played that helped me in life to just continue this trend. So if you are interested in seeing it, make sure to hit that bell notification so you know when it goes out. And yeah, that's all. I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.